I stood there in the courtroom, my hands clenched at my sides, staring at the polished wooden bench where the judge sat flipping through papers. The air felt thick, like I couldn't breathe properly, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, making everything seem too bright and unreal. My name is Mark, I'm 45, and for the past 20 years, I've been grinding away as an accountant, balancing books for mid-sized firms, saving every penny to build a stable life. But now, that life was crumbling right in front of me because of Lisa, my ex-wife, who was sitting across the room with her lawyer, her face twisted into this fake look of hurt and desperation. We'd been separated for about a year before the divorce even finalized 6 months ago. After I caught her cheating, I moved out to a small apartment across town, changed my phone number, and blocked her on everything to cut off the constant arguments in her attempts to manipulate me. I hadn't seen her in person since then, and there were no calls or real texts from me after that. So when the summons hit my mailbox a few weeks back about this child support lawsuit, it blindsided me completely. I had no idea she'd even been pregnant, let alone given birth to twins. Welcome to Brian's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you, right now. I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. Your Honor, Lisa said, her tone all shaky and dramatic, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue that looked brand new. Mark abandoned me when I needed him most. I was pregnant with our twins, and he just walked out, refusing to acknowledge them. I've been struggling alone, paying for doctor visits, the delivery, everything out of pocket. He owes me back support for the past months and ongoing payments to raise these babies properly. They're his children, and he can't just deny that because he's bitter about the divorce. I felt my stomach drop, a wave of shock hitting me hard as the courtroom murmurs started up from the few people in the gallery, mostly her friends she'd dragged along for support. How could she lie like this? We'd been trying for kids early in our marriage, but after years of nothing, we agreed I'd get a vasectomy 5 years back to avoid more heartbreak. She knew that. She'd signed off on it, but now she was twisting everything, making me look like a deadbeat dad who ran out on his family. My face burned with humiliation, knowing the judge was eyeing me, and my lawyer whispered something about staying calm, but inside I was raging. All those years I'd supported her, paying for her shopping sprees, her spa days, while she flirted behind my back. It all came crashing down in this moment. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked over at me. Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to say in response to these allegations? He asked, his voice steady but probing. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Your Honor, this isn't true. Lisa and I divorced because of her infidelity, and those twins, they can't be mine. I had a vasectomy years ago. We both agreed to it. Lisa shot up from her seat, her eyes wide with mock outrage. That's a lie. He's just trying to get out of his responsibilities. We never discussed any vasectomy. He's fabricating this to avoid paying what he owes. Look at the paternity papers I submitted. They prove he's the father. Her lawyer nodded vigorously, sliding more documents across to the judge. We have text messages from Mr. Thompson acknowledging the pregnancy, Your Honor. He's been evasive ever since. I glanced at those so-called texts on the screen the bailiff projected. They looked real enough at first, but I knew they were fake. I glanced at those so-called texts on the screen the bailiff projected. They looked real enough at first, but my gut twisted because I recognized pieces of old conversations from years ago. She'd clipped my messages, swapped lines, and even changed the dates to make it look like I'd known about a pregnancy I'd never even heard of. I hadn't texted her since I changed my number and cut contact, so whatever this was, it was edited, stitched together, and meant to frame me. She'd gone as far as fabricating messages to make it seem like I'd known about the pregnancy all along and accepted it. My heart pounded as the judge scanned them, and I felt exposed. Like everyone in the room was judging me as this irresponsible jerk. The pain of betrayal stung deep. I'd trusted her for so long, built our life together, only for her to drag me here and smear my name over money. She wanted thousands in support, enough to drain what little I had left after the divorce settlement. Your Honor, please, I said, my voice cracking a bit despite trying to hold it together. I can prove the vasectomy. I have records from the clinic. Lisa leaned forward, her voice dripping with venom. Prove it then, Mark. But we both know you're just stalling. These babies need their father, or at least his money, to survive. The judge held up a hand. We'll get to evidence in due time. For now, Mrs. Thompson, excuse me, Ms. Reynolds, your claim is noted. Mr. Thompson, you'll need to respond formally. As the hearing paused for a recess, I slumped into my chair, feeling the weight of injustice pressing on me. Friends I'd invited for moral support avoided my eyes, and whispers floated around about how I must have done something wrong to end up here. The emotional pressure built up over years, her constant demands, the late nights I worked to keep us afloat while she partied, it all amplified in this public shaming. I was at my lowest, humiliated in front of strangers, wrongly accused of fathering kids that weren't mine, and facing the loss of my hard-earned savings to her greed. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about the money, it was about her trying to destroy what was left of my dignity. I wouldn't let her win without a fight. The recess wrapped up fast, and we all shuffled back into our seats, the courtroom feeling even stuffier now with the tension hanging in the air like a bad smell. I sat down next to Tom, my lawyer, who gave me a quick, reassuring squeeze on the shoulder. But I could tell he was gearing up for whatever Lisa was about to throw next. She looked smug over there with her attorney, adjusting her papers as if she owned the place, and the judge banged his gavel lightly to get things rolling again. "Ms. Reynolds, proceed with your evidence for the support claim," he said, leaning back in his chair. And just like that, the knot in my stomach tightened even more. Lisa stood up, handing a folder to her lawyer, who walked it over to the bench with this air of victory. "Your Honor, we have clear documentation showing Mr. Thompson is the father," her lawyer said, passing copies to the judge and then to Tom, who slid one my way. I grabbed it, my hands shaking a bit as I scanned the pages. There was an acknowledgement of paternity form, stamped by the state with what looked like my signature at the bottom. But I knew right away it was forged. I'd never signed anything like that, especially not after catching her cheating and cutting off contact. Attached were those edited text messages again, pulled up on the screen for everyone to see. Old ones from before I changed my number and blocked her, but she'd clipped them, changed the dates, and tweaked the words to make it seem like I was acknowledging her pregnancy. Stuff like turning my old questions about her health into supposed admissions about the twins. "These messages demonstrate Mr. Thompson knew about the pregnancy and intended to be involved," her lawyer went on, gesturing at the projection. "Paired with the signed acknowledgement of paternity, we're seeking retroactive support covering the pregnancy period and the months leading up to the birth, plus all pregnancy and delivery expenses, coming to 15 guras already, and monthly payments of $2,500 per child going forward, based on his salary as an accountant." Lisa locked eyes with me for a moment, her expression all righteous anger, but I saw the greed behind it. The same look she'd get when demanding more from our joint accounts during our marriage. I stared at that forged signature, my mind racing. How had she faked it so convincingly? Maybe traced it from old divorce papers or something, but it looked real enough to fool anyone at first glance. Tom leaned in and muttered, "We'll challenge the authenticity," and I nodded. But my pulse was pounding, the humiliation from the first round still fresh, now amplified by this stack of lies threatening to wipe me out financially. The judge flipped through the documents, his brow furrowing. "This is compelling on its face, but not a final determination," he said, glancing at Tom. "I note your objection to the texts in form. We'll verify their authenticity in the next phase, and I may order a DNA test if needed." Lisa wasn't done, though. She piped up, her voice steady but edged with that dramatic quiver. "Your Honor, the ultrasounds are dated during our marriage, while we were still legally married, even during the separation before the divorce finalized. That proves the twins were conceived then, and Mark can't just walk away now." Her lawyer jumped in, sliding over more papers. "We've included medical bills and a timeline. Ms. Reynolds has shouldered all this alone. To protect the children, we're requesting a temporary asset freeze on Mr. Thompson's accounts pending verification, plus an interim support order to cover immediate needs." I felt cornered, like the walls were closing in, my hard-earned savings from 20 years of crunching numbers at risk of being frozen just like that, all because of her infidelity in this web of edited messages and forged documents. Tom objected again, saying, "This is premature without proof of paternity," but the judge just nodded. "Duly noted, I'll consider the interim requests after review." Lisa sat back down, whispering something to her lawyer that made them both smile faintly, and I could practically hear her thinking she'd nailed it. The pressure built inside me, all those years of supporting her flashy lifestyle flashing back, paying off her debts, funding her trips, now twisted into this nightmare where she was trying to bleed me dry because her affair guy probably wouldn't step up. I gripped the table edge, feeling suffocated by the injustice. But that spark from earlier ignited stronger. I wouldn't fight back yet, not here. But I'd dig into this, prove those edits and that forgery, and make her pay for dragging me through this hell. The judge didn't waste much time after flipping through those last documents. He set them down with a heavy sigh and looked straight at Lisa's side first, then over to me and Tom. I've reviewed the submitted evidence, including the acknowledgement of paternity, the text messages, and the medical timelines, he said, his voice carrying that official weight that made my insides twist even more. While verification is pending, Ms. Reynolds has presented a prima facie case for paternity and support needs. To ensure the welfare of the minor children during this process, I'm granting a temporary support order of $500 per month effective immediately, and a partial freeze on Mr. Thompson's primary bank account up to $10,000 for potential back payments. Lisa's face lit up like she'd just won the lottery, and she turned to her lawyer with a quick nod, while Tom shot up from his seat. Your Honor, this is highly prejudicial without confirmed authenticity, Tom argued, his tone sharp but controlled. We're requesting a stay on any orders until the DNA test you mentioned can be conducted. My client disputes paternity entirely due to medical history. The judge held up a hand, shaking his head slightly. Objection noted, counsel, but the freeze is interim only, and the support is minimal pending the full hearing, which I'll schedule for 2 weeks from today. Mr. Thompson, you'll comply with these orders in the meantime. Failure to do so could result in contempt charges. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That $1,500 was half my monthly take-home after taxes and rent, and the freeze hit my checking account where I kept my emergency fund, the same one I'd rebuilt, after handing over so much in the divorce. Lisa leaned over to her lawyer and whispered something, then looked my way with that victorious smirk like she was already spending the money. As the gavel came down to adjourn, the courtroom started emptying out, but the murmurs from the gallery grew louder, her friends chatting excitedly, one of them pulling out her phone to text someone. Tom pulled me aside near the doors. Mark, this is just temporary. We'll push for that DNA test right away and subpoena those original message logs to prove the edits, he said quietly. Don't make any transfers. I'll file an emergency motion to lift the freeze. I nodded, but my mind was spinning, the humiliation burning hotter now that it wasn't just words, it was real money being yanked from me for kids that couldn't possibly be mine. How long until we can get that test ordered? I asked, keeping my voice low as we stepped into the hallway. Could be at the next hearing, but we need to move fast on your vasectomy records, Tom replied. Gather everything from the clinic, affidavits, dates. In the meantime, stay off social media. Don't engage with her. But it was too late for that. By the time I got back to my apartment that evening, my phone was blowing up with messages from mutual friends and even a couple of colleagues who'd somehow heard about the case. One text from my old buddy Steve read, Dude, heard about the court thing. Twins? You never mentioned. Hope you're okay. Another from a coworker, Sarah, was blunter. Mark, is it true you're fighting child support? Office gossip is saying you bailed on your ex during pregnancy. That doesn't sound like you. I sat on my couch, staring at the screen, feeling the isolation creep in like a fog. How had it spread so fast? I opened my laptop and checked Facebook. Sure enough, Lisa had posted a vague status update. Finally standing up for my babies after being abandoned. Justice is coming. Single mom strong, deadbeat dads. It had dozens of likes already, mostly from her circle, with comments like, You go, girl, he doesn't deserve you, and praying for you and the little ones. One even tagged me directly, Mark Thompson, shame on you for not stepping up. My face heated up as I scrolled, the betrayal hitting deeper. We'd agreed during the separation to keep things private. No public drama, but here she was, turning our dirty laundry into a viral smear campaign. I wanted to comment back, to shout that it was all lies, that the vasectomy made it impossible. But Tom's words echoed in my head, don't engage. Instead, I blocked her profile and a few others. But the damage was done. Notifications kept pinging from LinkedIn now, where a former client had messaged, Heard some personal news. Hope it doesn't affect our project deadlines. The next morning at work, it got worse. I walked into the office kitchen for coffee, and 2 accountants from the next cubicle went quiet when they saw me, exchanging glances. My boss, Karen, called me into her office before lunch. Mark, I don't want to pry into your personal life, she started, folding her hands on the desk, but we've had a couple of emails from clients mentioning rumors about a lawsuit. Is everything under control? We can't have distractions impacting the team. I swallowed hard, forcing a calm tone. It's a misunderstanding from my divorce, Karen. My ex is making false claims, but my lawyer's handling it. Won't affect my work. She nodded slowly, but her eyes said she wasn't fully convinced. All right, just keep me posted if it escalates. We value you here, but reputation matters in this field. I left her office feeling like a marked man, the public shaming spreading like wildfire, turning colleagues into skeptics and friends into distant sympathizers. Even my sister texted later, Mark, Mom heard from Aunt Linda about the twins. Is this true? Why didn't you tell us? I paced my living room that night, the fear of bankruptcy looming larger now with the temporary payments starting next week. I'd have to dip into credit cards just to cover rent, and if the full hearing went wrong, it could mean garnished wages, ruined credit, maybe even losing my job if clients pulled out. Lisa's online rumors had amplified everything, making me look like the villain in our circle, isolated from the people who'd known me for years. The emotional pressure from all those sacrificed nights working overtime to support her habits, it all boiled up, intensifying the pain of her betrayal. But as I sat there in the dark, staring at my phone's glow, that resolve hardened. I wouldn't just defend, I'd expose her affair, prove the forgeries, and make sure everyone saw the truth. 2 weeks until the hearing, I'd use every day to build my case quietly. The days after that court hearing blurred into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Starting with the bank notification that hit my phone the very next morning while I was still in bed, staring at the ceiling of my cramped apartment. Account alert, 10,000 or hold placed per court order, the message read, and I sat up fast, my heart racing as I logged into my online banking app to confirm it. Sure enough, my checking account was frozen solid for that amount, leaving me with just a couple $100 to scrape by until my next paycheck. I called Tom right away, pacing the small living room with its second-hand couch and bare walls, the place I'd moved into after the separation to start fresh, but now it felt like a cage closing in. Tom, this freeze is killing me. I can't even pay my rent next week without dipping into credit cards, I said, my voice tight with frustration. He sighed on the other end, papers rustling in the background. I know, Mark, I'm filing the motion to lift it today, but these things take time. Could be a few days before we hear back. In the meantime, hold off on any big expenses and document everything. I hung up, feeling the weight settle heavier, knowing that $1 or $500 temporary support payment was due in a week too, which meant I'd have to transfer it from my savings if the freeze didn't lift, eating into the little nest egg I had left after giving Lisa half in the divorce. I headed to work trying to shake it off, but as I walked into the office building, I caught a few stares from the security guard and the receptionist, like they knew something I didn't. By mid-morning, it all came crashing down when Karen called me back into her office. This time with HR sitting there too, a stern woman named Linda, who'd always been all business. Mark, we need to talk about the rumors, Karen started, motioning for me to close the door behind me. I sat down, my palms sweaty, already guessing where this was headed. Clients are emailing us directly now. 2 of our big accounts mentioned hearing about your legal troubles, something about child support and abandonment. It's affecting their confidence in our team. I leaned forward, trying to keep my cool. Karen, it's all false. My ex is lying about the paternity to get money. I've got proof of a vasectomy from 5 years ago, and Tom's filing motions to lift the hold and force a DNA test. It won't affect my work. It won't drag on. Linda chimed in, her tone flat and professional. We understand personal matters happen, Mr. Thompson, but the office policy is clear. Any external issues that impact work performance or client relations could lead to probation. We've already had one client request a different accountant for their audit. Karen nodded along, adding, We're putting you on a performance review for the next month. No new projects until this clears up. And Mark, if it escalates, we might have to consider unpaid leave. I walked out of there numb, my face burning with shame as I passed cubicles where whispers followed me. Did you hear? Twins? And he's fighting support? One guy muttered to another, not even trying to be quiet. By lunch, I couldn't take it. I grabbed my coat and left early, driving aimlessly before ending up at a coffee shop across town, where I sat alone with a black coffee that tasted like ash. My phone kept buzzing. Texts from more friends like my college roommate Dave. Bro, saw Lisa's post blowing up. You really have kids you didn't tell us about? Call me. Even my sister escalated, calling instead of texting. Mark, what's going on? Mom's freaking out. Aunt Linda showed her the Facebook stuff. And now everyone's asking if you're hiding a family. You need to explain this. I picked up, my voice cracking despite trying to sound steady. Sis, it's not true. The twins aren't mine. Lisa's fabricating everything because her affair blew up and she needs cash. I had a vasectomy, remember? We talked about it years ago. She paused, then sighed. I believe you, but Mom's doubting, says if there's smoke, there's fire. And Dad? He's disappointed, thinks you should have handled the divorce quieter. Just fix this soon. Family's talking about not inviting you to Thanksgiving if it drags on. Hanging up hurt worse than the court orders, my own family pulling away, treating me like I was the one who betrayed them, when all I'd done was trust Lisa for too long, pouring my life into a marriage that was a lie from the start. Back at the apartment that night, I tried to eat a microwave dinner, but my stomach churned. The isolation hitting full force as I scrolled through more online fallout Lisa's post had gone. Semi-viral in our extended circle, with over 100 shares. Comments piling on like, "Men like him give fathers a bad name," and "Poor Lisa. Raising twins alone while he hides." One anonymous account even messaged me directly. "Deadbeat, pay up or karma will get you." I blocked them all, but the damage sunk in deep, my reputation shredded in public, turning me into this pariah overnight. The next day, it got even worse when I checked my email and found a notice from the building manager. Rent. Payment due in 5 days. Note, we've received inquiries about your legal status. Please ensure no disruptions. Inquiries? That had to be Lisa or her friends stirring trouble. Maybe even hinting at eviction risks if I couldn't pay. I called Tom again, desperate now. This is spiraling. Work's on me. Family's doubting. And now my landlord? I feel like I'm losing everything. "Stay strong, Mark. We're expediting the hearing motion," he said. "Get those vasectomy records scanned and sent over. That's our ace." But as I hung up, I collapsed onto the couch, tears finally breaking through after holding it all in. I'd lost the house in the divorce, half my savings, now my financial stability was frozen, my job hanging by a thread, and my support network crumbling under Lisa's smears. The emotional humiliation crushed me. Years of loyalty, working late to fund her whims, only to be painted as the villain, isolated and broke, with no one left who fully believed me. I was at rock bottom, stripped of dignity, security, and trust, the outrage boiling but powerless for the moment. That night on the couch, after the tears dried up and the microwave dinner sat cold and untouched on the coffee table, I stared at the ceiling cracks in my dimly lit apartment, the weight of everything pressing down like it would never lift. But something snapped inside me then, a quiet click amid the chaos, and I realized I couldn't just sit here letting Lisa destroy me piece by piece. She'd taken enough. From our marriage to my reputation, and if I didn't push back now, there'd be nothing left. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, stood up slowly, and grabbed my phone from the charger on the kitchen counter, scrolling through contacts until I found Tom's number. He'd been solid so far, but I needed to ramp this up without tipping her off. "Tom, it's Mark," I said when he picked up after a couple rings, my voice steadier than it had been in days, even though it was late, around 10 at night. "I can't wait around anymore. This freeze and the rumors are killing me. We need to start building my case quietly, no big moves that she'll notice." He paused, probably rubbing sleep from his eyes, but his tone came back alert. "Good to hear you sounding fired up, Mark. What's the plan? We've got the hearing in under 2 weeks. Let's use it. I want to play it weak in public, act like I'm crumbling so she gets overconfident," I explained, pacing the small space between the couch and the window, where streetlights filtered through the blinds. "But behind the scenes, I need those vasectomy records pulled fast, and maybe dig into her side. Those edited texts, the forged signature on that paternity form. Can we subpoena phone records or something without alerting her yet?" Tom hummed thoughtfully. "Smart approach. Keep her thinking she's winning. I'll request the medical records discreetly through the clinic. Since it's your history, it shouldn't raise flags. For the texts, we'll need a forensic expert later, but start by gathering what you have from your old backups. And the AOP forgery? That's fraud. We can build on that. Send me any old divorce docs for signature comparison." I nodded to myself, feeling a spark of control for the first time since the courtroom bombshell, and ended the call with a promise to email him whatever I could find in my files. But I knew I needed more help. Someone outside the legal bubble who could poke around without drawing attention. So I scrolled further in my contacts and landed on an old name. Alex, my buddy from college who'd stuck around through the years, now working as a private investigator after a stint in corporate security. We hadn't talked much since the divorce, but he'd always been the type to have my back. No questions asked. "Mark, man, it's been forever. What's up?" Alex answered on the first ring, his voice booming like always, even at this hour. Probably from his home office where he ran background checks for clients. I took a deep breath, leaning against the kitchen counter, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. "Alex, I need a favor, big one. My ex, Lisa, she's suing me for child support on twins that aren't mine, forging docs and spreading lies online. Work's on my ass, family's doubting me, and I've got a court freeze on my money. Tom's my lawyer, but I need off-the-books help to gather proof without her knowing." He didn't hesitate, his tone shifting to serious. "Damn, that's rough. Heard bits from mutual friends, but not the full story. What do you need? Background on her? The affair guy?" "Start with my medical stuff," I said, lowering my voice even though I was alone. "I had a vasectomy 5 years back. Mutual decision after we couldn't have kids. Clinic's got the records, docs, consent forms with both our signatures. Can you help me access copies quietly? Tom's going official, but I want backups in case she tries to tamper." Alex chuckled softly, but it was supportive, not mocking. You got it. I'm licensed, so I can pull public records or liaise with the clinic as your rep. Send me the details. Clinic name, date, your ID. And while I'm at it, want me to sniff around her socials or that coworker she cheated with? Might find timeline holes? Yeah, but keep it low-key, no direct contact, I replied, feeling the plan solidify as I grabbed a notepad from the drawer and jotted down notes. I don't want her paranoid yet. Just the vasectomy stuff first. That's the key clue to blow her paternity claim apart. We talked for another 20 minutes, hashing out logistics, and by the time we hung up, I had a sense of direction, like the fog was clearing just enough to see a path forward. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, putting on that defeated face Karen and the team expected, slumped shoulders. Minimal chit-chat in the kitchen, focusing on my spreadsheets like nothing else mattered. But during my lunch break, I slipped out to a nearby park bench, away from prying eyes, and called the clinic myself to confirm the records existed, my heart pounding as the receptionist pulled up my file. Mr. Thompson, yes, we have your procedure from May 15, 2020, she said politely over the phone, after verifying my info. Vasectomy performed by Dr. Harlan, with consent signed by you and your spouse at the time, Lisa Thompson. We can fax copies if you authorize. I authorized it right there, directing them to send it to Tom's office, and hung up feeling a rush of empowerment, the first real clue in my hands. Proof that those twins couldn't be mine, dated long before our separation. But I kept it quiet, didn't even tell my sister yet. Playing weak meant no victory laps, just steady buildup. That afternoon, Alex texted me. Got prelim access, records clean, no alterations. Scanning affair partner's socials next, guys flaky posted about baby drama vaguely, more soon. Back at the apartment that evening, I sifted through old emails on my laptop, finding the original consent form PDF I'd saved years ago, the one with Lisa's signature clear as day, agreeing to the vasectomy after our failed fertility attempts. It stung revisiting that time, the heartbreak of no kids, her pushing for it to move on, all while I supported her emotionally and financially, only for her to betray me later. But the pain fueled me now, turning betrayal into fuel. I forwarded it to Tom and Alex, whispering to myself, this is it, the start of turning this around. Tom called back later, excitement in his voice. Mark, this vasectomy doc is gold. We'll pair it with a doctor's affidavit for the hearing. Keep gathering. If we prove forgery on her side, she could face charges. I will, I said, standing taller in my kitchen. But remember, play it cool. No hints to anyone. Let her think I'm done. As I ended the call and stared out the window at the city lights, the isolation from before felt less crushing, replaced by a growing resolve. I'd endured her greed and lies long enough, and now, with Alex's help and this first clue, I was ready to strike back quietly, building my case until she least expected it. The next few days dragged on with that same heavy tension, but I started feeling a bit more in control as the pieces came together. Beginning with the email from the clinic that popped up on my phone while I was at my desk at work, pretending to crunch numbers like everything was normal. I glanced around to make sure no one was looking over my shoulder, then opened it discreetly. The full vasectomy records were attached, including the procedure details from Dr. Harlan and the follow-up tests showing 0 sperm count, confirming it was effective. I forwarded it right to Tom, my fingers steady on the keyboard despite the asset freeze still locking up my account and that temporary support payment looming next week. And he called me back during my lunch break as I sat in my car in the parking lot, away from the office gossip. Mark, these records look solid. The dates line up perfectly with 5 years ago. And the tests back it up, Tom said, his voice calm and methodical over the line. I'll reach out to Dr. Harlan today for an affidavit. He'll state that based on the procedure and follow-ups, it's consistent with sterility and extremely unlikely you could father children without reversal. Surgery. I nodded to myself, gripping the steering wheel a little less tightly, the knot in my stomach easing just a fraction. That's what we need. Keep it quiet for now. What about the rest? Alex is chasing the affair side. We'll tie it all in soon, Tom replied. Send over whatever he finds, and remember, stick to the plan. Act defeated at work, no slip-ups. Hanging up, I drove to a nearby deli for a sandwich, but my phone buzzed again with a message from Alex. Call when you can. Got clean leads on Derek. Back in the car, I dialed him, keeping my voice low even though I was alone, the engine idling as snow dusted the windshield on this cold December morning. Mark, no shady stuff here. I reached out to a mutual acquaintance from your old social circle, someone who's in a group chat with Lisa and annoyed by her constant drama, Alex said right away, his tone professional like always. They voluntarily shared screenshots of her posts in the private group, including one from about 9 months ago where she's tagged with Derek at a bar, looking cozy. Dated well after you two separated and you cut off contact. No way it aligns with her court timeline. I leaned back in the seat, a surge of quiet satisfaction building as I listened. That's key. Shows the affair was ongoing post-separation. Anything on the pregnancy? Yeah. The same acquaintance sent over an original ultrasound photo Lisa had shared in the chat early on. Excited about the news, Alex continued. They kept the file, and the metadata on it has the real date stamp, later than what she submitted to the court, matching up with that bar photo time frame. Plus, Derek's public posts on his open profile complain about life surprises I wasn't ready for, right? Around the birth, and he even liked to comment about dodging responsibilities. It's all above board. The acquaintance is willing to provide a signed statement if we need it for court. I took a deep breath, the tension shifting toward something more manageable. Like I was finally steering this instead of just hanging on. Send it all to me and Tom. This nails the conception after I was out of the picture. No contact, no possibility. Already on it, Alex said. And Lisa? She's still posting publicly like she's got this locked down, another update yesterday. About justice for my babies, with likes pouring in from her friends. Overconfident, no clue we're building this. We wrapped up the call, and I headed back to the office, slumping my shoulders a bit as I walked in, nodding vaguely at a coworker's question about how I was holding up. Keeping up the weak act while inside, the momentum was growing. That afternoon, during a slow moment at my desk, I organized everything on my phone. Vasectomy files, screenshots, metadata notes, Derek's posts into a shared folder for Tom. Adding a quick timeline doc I'd sketched out showing the separation cutoff, the affair evidence, and how her altered ultrasounds didn't match. Tom emailed back later that evening as I sat at my kitchen table in the apartment, picking at a takeout dinner with the city lights flickering outside. Dr. Harlan's affidavit is drafted and signed. He confirms the sterility based on records. His message read, with the affair proof and timeline mismatches, this is enough to petition for a DNA test at the hearing, challenge the forged AOP, and question those edited texts' authenticity. We're in a strong position now, but stay silent, no shadows stirring yet. I replied with a simple, got it, then leaned back in my chair. The financial pressure from the freeze in payments still there. The hearing less than 2 weeks out, but for the first time, it felt like the scales were shifting in my favor. Lisa thought she had me cornered, boasting away, while I gathered it all in the shadows, ready to strike when the moment was right. With the vasectomy affidavit from Dr. Harlan tucked away, and those group chat screenshots showing the real affair timeline with Derek, I figured it was time for a small test, something to poke at her without showing my cards. So I picked up my phone that evening on December 23rd. The holiday lights glowing outside my apartment as I sat at the kitchen table. The recent auto withdrawal of that $1, $500 temporary support leaving my account even thinner under the ongoing freeze. I called Alex first, staring at my laptop where I'd opened Derek's LinkedIn profile again, his public posts about unexpected changes hinting at his avoidance. Alex, let's plant a seed with Derek. Use a burner account to message him on LinkedIn. Something neutral that makes him question Lisa's lawsuit without any threats, I said, keeping my voice steady, the tension building but under control. He listened, then replied thoughtfully, yeah, we can set up a temporary account with minimal footprint, harder to trace quickly if he looks into it. What's the message? Keep it simple. Saw news of a child support case involving twins and Mark Thompson. Might be worth verifying if it affects you, to protect yourself from any misunderstanding, I told him, my fingers drumming the table as I pictured Derek's reaction. Send it as a connection request with the note using his public profile. Alex handled it right away, creating the burner and confirming the send within minutes, texting me back, done, no details that point to you. I leaned back, heart pounding a little faster, this first subtle strike feeling sharp but hidden. The financial strain from the court orders pushing me to act while I played weak at work, nodding through another day of pitying glances from coworkers the next morning on December 24th. Around lunch, Alex called while I sat in my car, the snow falling lightly outside. It worked. Derek accepted the request, then posted a vague status on his profile. Dealing with unexpected questions, time to get answers. And here's the ripple. He confronted Lisa in their messages and she panicked, forwarding a screenshot of their chat to that group chat to vent and ask for advice. I gripped the phone, picturing her frenzy as Alex continued. The acquaintance captured it and shared with me. Derek's asking, is this lawsuit really about your ex or pulling me in? She's replying, it's all on Mark, don't worry. But why are you asking now? He's pushing, got a weird message. Sounds like there might be more to it. She's defensive. Who messaged you? This is handled, Derek, trust me. A controlled rush hit me, her paranoia kicking in without her knowing my hand in it. The years of her betrayal fueling this quiet jab after all the reputation hits she'd thrown my way. With her posts and lies. That's the crack we needed. She's sweating, wondering if her story's leaking, I said to Alex. My tone even as we hung up, then I called Tom to loop him in without specifics on the setup. Subtle tactic, Mark. Plants doubt without exposure, Tom said approvingly over the line. It'll make her slip more at the mediation call later today. Stay quiet overall. We're prepping the DNA test motion for the hearing, but no reveals yet. I agreed, ending the call and heading back to work. Shoulders slumped for show as Karen wished me happy holidays with a concerned look. But inside, the momentum held steady. That afternoon, back in the apartment, I joined the mediated video call, Tom on with me, Lisa and her lawyer appearing on screen. Her face tight with that same composed mask but a flicker of unease in her eyes, like the Derek drama was gnawing at her. The mediator, Ms. Ellis, opened things up. We're here to review the interim support terms and any adjustments before the full hearing. No. Major disputes today? Tom spoke first. We've complied with the $500 payment and freeze, but we're seeking some clarity for the hearing on the timeline details. Lisa's lawyer nodded curtly, but I leaned in slightly, keeping my voice mild and subdued. Lisa, the dates in your documents seem off from when we fully separated. I moved out. Changed my number, no contact after that. How does the conception fit exactly? She froze for a beat, her eyes widening just a touch before she snapped back. What are you getting at, Mark? We were still married. The ultrasounds show it. Don't try to confuse things. Her lawyer jumped in quickly. This isn't the place for paternity debates. That's for the hearing. Stick to the support terms. Ms. Ellis held up a hand on screen. Let's keep focus on the interim arrangements. No changes needed today unless agreed. Anything else? We wrapped up in under 20 minutes, no adjustments made, but I caught Lisa rubbing her temple off camera, her paranoia showing in that slight tremor, the small strike landing its mark without her tracing it back. Tom texted after, she looked shaken, good probe. I set my phone down, pouring a coffee in the quiet kitchen. The first counterblow delivered sharp and hidden. My strategy to strike from the shadows holding firm as I prepared for whatever came next. The mediation call had barely ended when my phone buzzed with a new email from Tom. But I set it aside for a moment, staring at the blank screen where Lisa's face had just been, her slight tremor replaying in my mind as I poured another coffee in the kitchen, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the fridge on that Christmas Eve afternoon. I felt the small strike had landed, her paranoia bubbling up from that Derek confrontation, but I kept my head clear, knowing she wouldn't sit idle. Greed like hers always pushed back hard when threatened. Tom's email popped open as I sat down. Watch your inbox. Her lawyer just filed a motion to expedite the full hearing to next week, citing urgent child needs. They're pushing for increased interim payments, too. Stay calm. We'll counter. I read it twice, my stomach tightening as the financial noose felt even tighter, with the asset freeze still in place. That auto-withdrawn $500 just the start if they ramped it up. Before I could reply, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered anyway, figuring it might be work or family tying into the holiday mess. Mr. Thompson, this is Attorney Hughes from Reynolds Legal, representing Lisa Reynolds, a sharp voice said on the other end. No greeting, just straight to business. We're aware you've been questioning paternity in mediation. Any further implications that the twins aren't yours could lead to a defamation suit. We've got your texts and the AOP as proof. Back off or we'll bury you in court fees. I paused, gripping the phone, the threat hitting like a cold wave after my subtle probe, but I kept my tone even. I'm just seeking clarity, like my lawyer said. No one's accusing anything yet. Hughes laughed shortly, his voice dripping with aggression. Clarity? Save it for the judge. Lisa's instructed me to push for $3,000 monthly interim now, plus full back payments expedited. And if you keep stirring with questions, we'll add emotional distress claims. Your job rumors are already out there. Think about that over the holidays. He hung up before I could respond, leaving me standing there in the kitchen, the coffee going cold in my mug as the isolation crept back in. Her escalation feeling like a full-on assault after I'd just started to shift things. I called Tom right away, pacing the living room with its sparse holiday decorations, a small tree I'd put up to feel normal, but now it mocked me. Tom, her lawyer just threatened defamation and upped the payments, I said, my voice low but urgent. They're expediting everything. Feels like she's panicking but hitting harder. Tom sighed, papers shuffling on his end. Classic move, hiring a bulldog like Hughes to intimidate. I'll file an opposition to the motion first thing after Christmas. Don't engage directly. Let me handle responses. I agreed, but as we hung up, another text came in from my sister. Mark, Lisa called Mom crying about the twins' Christmas without support. She's rallying the family, says you're dragging this out to hurt her. Aunt Linda's on her side now, thinks you should just pay up. I stared at the message, the betrayal stinging fresh, my own relatives turning after her smears, making me feel cornered again like at rock bottom. The workplace scrutiny now spilling into family dinners I wasn't even invited to anymore. The next day, Christmas morning, I woke up to more fallout, an email from Lisa herself, forwarded through her lawyer to keep it official, but her words seethed through, Mark, stop the games. I know you're behind whatever's bugging Derek. He's asking questions now. If you don't drop the timeline nonsense, I'll make sure every mutual friend knows you're a liar trying to abandon our kids. Sign off on the increased support, or I'll destroy what's left of your reputation. Attached was a screenshot of her latest Facebook post, visible to family. Spending Christmas alone with my babies because their dad won't step up. Heartbroken but strong. Chowder's justice for Mom, with comments from relatives like, hang in there, Lisa, we're here for you. And one from my cousin, Mark, if this is true, shame on you. I forwarded it to Tom and Alex, my hands shaking a bit as I made coffee. The holiday silence in the apartment amplifying the renewed fear. Her sabotage intensifying by dragging family deeper into her web, making it seem like I was the monster while she played victim. Alex called back quickly, his voice steady over the line. She's deleting old emails now. I had the acquaintance check the group chat. Lisa posted asking if anyone saved her pregnancy announcements, saying she accidentally wiped her inbox. Trying to cover tracks on the affair and timeline mismatches. Damn, she's destroying evidence, I said, leaning against the counter, the aroma of coffee doing nothing to calm the rising tension. That could erase the original ultrasounds or messages proving the alterations. Alex paused. Possibly, but we have backups from what the acquaintance shared earlier. The metadata's safe on our end. Still, it's a bold move, shows she's scared but fighting dirty. Tom jumped on a conference call we set up right after, his tone firm. This deletion could backfire if we prove it, spoliation of evidence. But her threats and family rally are working. Your sister's text means isolation's worsening. We need to hold steady. No retaliation yet, or she'll claim harassment. I nodded to myself, sitting at the table with my laptop open to the family group chat, where more messages piled in, cousins echoing Lisa's narrative. Mark, just settle this. Don't ruin the holidays for the kids. Agreed, another replied. Lisa's been through enough with the divorce. It felt like the walls closing in again. Her aggressive lawyer pushing legal angles while she torched my support network. The financial demands escalating to potentially bankrupt me before the hearing even hit next week. That evening, as I tried to eat a solo Christmas dinner, take out turkey that tasted like cardboard, my boss Karen texted, Mark, hope you're enjoying the break, but heads up. A client mentioned hearing more rumors from your personal life. Let's chat after the holiday about keeping it separate from work. I set the phone down, the renewed isolation hitting hard, family doubting, job on thinner ice, and Lisa's threats looming like she'd turn the screws until I broke, destroying any loose ends that could expose her lies about the emails and affair. Tom called one more time before bed. Her motion's in, expedited hearing set for January 2nd. They're demanding full discovery now, but that cuts both ways. Hang tight, it looks bad, but we've got the affidavit and mismatches ready. I will, I said, my voice steady despite the fear churning inside. But she's making it feel like I'm losing ground fast, he reassured me. That's her goal, intimidate you into settling. We're close. As I lay in bed that night, the city quiet outside with holiday cheer I couldn't touch. The tension rose sharp, her strikes back landing heavy, rallying allies and erasing trails while threatening more suits, making it seem like I'd lose everything before I could even present my case. The pain of isolation and betrayal mirroring those early court days. Fear renewed, but my resolve holding just enough to push through. The days after Christmas blurred into a tense countdown. With New Year's Eve approaching and the expedited hearing set for January 7th, just over a week away, the asset freeze still choking my finances, and that pushed demand for $3.00 interim payments hanging like a threat from attorney Hughes's motion. I sat in my apartment that morning on December 26th, laptop open on the kitchen table, sifting through the backups Alex had secured, the vasectomy affidavit from Dr. Harlan, the original ultrasound metadata showing Lisa's alterations, those voluntary group chat screenshots of her venting about Derek's questions, and his public post dodging responsibility. It wasn't enough to just defend anymore. I needed to lock in undeniable proof. So I called Tom first, my coffee steaming beside me as the winter sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows on the floor. Tom, we have to go all in, get a DNA test offer on the table and pull in witness statements. I said, my voice firm now, the fear from Lisa's threats fueling this final push instead of breaking me. Dr. Harlan's affidavit is solid, but let's get him to confirm in writing that paternity is impossible. And that acquaintance. Can we get a signed statement about the group chat forwards and the affair? Timeline? He paused, then replied with that steady confidence I'd come to rely on. You're right, Mark. This ties it together. I'll draft the motion for the DNA test today, mandatory for the hearing. Doctor, Harlan's already on board. I'll email him for the witness statement affirming the sterility. Results in no reversal. For the acquaintance, Alex can coordinate a notarized affidavit about what they saw in the chats, her forwarding Derek's. Messages admitting the real conception dates post-separation. No risks. It's all voluntary. I nodded to myself, leaning back in the chair as the plan crystallized. The emotional weight of her family rally and reputation smears turning into resolve. Like I was finally taking full control after months of her manipulation. And Derek, can we subpoena him as a witness? His posts and those screenshots show he's the father. If he shows up, her story crumbles. Subpoena's feasible, Tom said. We'll list him for the hearing, along with the clinic records. This sets up a public showdown in court. Judge, family if they attend, her supporters. But keep playing weak. Don't let on we're this loaded. We hung up, and I immediately texted Alex, need that acquaintance's signed statement ASAP about Lisa, forwarding the Derek chats and venting the real timeline. He replied within minutes. On it. They're annoyed with her drama, willing to notarize today. I'll scan and send to Tom. The rest of the day moved fast. I headed to a nearby notary office Alex recommended, meeting the acquaintance there, a woman named Sarah. Someone from Lisa's old work circle who'd grown tired of her lies after seeing the group chat blow up. We sat in the small waiting area, her with a folder of printed screenshots, me keeping my expression neutral as the notary stamped the documents. I saw her forward those messages from Derek right after your mediation, Sarah said quietly, signing the affidavit with a steady hand. She was panicking, asking the group how to handle him questioning the paternity. Admitted the twins were from after you left. Said, Mark's the easy target for support. I kept copies because it felt wrong. I took a deep breath, watching her hand over the notarized statement, the paper feeling like solid gold in my hands. Thanks, Sarah. This means everything. You've seen her twist things firsthand? She nodded, her voice low but firm. Yeah, the affair with Derek was obvious in the chats. Photos, vents about him bailing. The ultrasound she shared originally had dates that didn't match what she filed in court. I'm done watching her ruin lives. I thanked her again, slipping the affidavit into my bag. Then drove straight to Tom's office across town, the city streets slick with melting snow. Holiday decorations still up, but feeling out of place against my building adrenaline. Tom was waiting in his conference room, papers spread out, and I handed him the statement, watching as he scanned it quickly. This is undeniable. Pairs with the metadata backups and Derek's posts, he said, stacking it with Dr. Harlan's incoming witness confirmation email that had just arrived. The doctor stating clearly, based on the 2020 procedure and follow-up tests, Mr. Thompson's sterility makes paternity extremely unlikely without documented reversal, which does not exist. We sat there for an hour, coordinating the full reveal. Tom filing the motions that afternoon to include the DNA test demand, subpoena Derek, and list Sarah as a witness, all set for the public court session where family and her friends might show, turning her smear campaign against her in front of everyone. We'll present it step by step before the judge, Tom explained, pointing to the outline on his notepad. First, the vasectomy records and affidavit, then the timeline mismatches with the original ultrasound data, the affair evidence from the chats and posts, and Sarah's statement. And with the DNA offer, she can't refuse without looking guilty. I leaned forward, the pieces locking in, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and empowerment after all the humiliation she'd piled on. From the courtroom accusations to the family doubts. And if Derek testifies, or even if he doesn't, the subpoena alone might make him crack to her beforehand. Exactly, Tom replied, his eyes sharp. It forces her hand, public confrontation, no hiding. I've arranged for the hearing to include open gallery seating. Invite who you want for support. This maximizes the exposure, but stay silent until then. No slips. I left his office feeling the shift complete, like I'd taken full control. The betrayal pain from years of her greed now channeled into this setup. The emotional payoff building as I imagined her face when it all came out. Back at the apartment that evening, Alex called with an update. His voice excited over the speaker as I paced the living room. Sarah's statement is scanned, and with Tom, she even added details about Lisa deleting emails, which we can use for spoliation if needed. Derek's been quiet online. But the acquaintance says he's arguing with Lisa more, threatening to come clean if subpoenaed. Good. Let it simmer, I said, stopping by the window to watch the city lights. The suspense holding me now, knowing the court date would bring everyone together. The judge. Lisa and her aggressive lawyer Hughes, maybe Derek under subpoena, Sarah as witness, even family if they showed after her rallying cries. Tom's got the DNA motion in too, irrefutable once tested. Alex agreed, and we hung up, leaving me to review the files one last time on my laptop, securing copies in a cloud backup just in case she tried more deletions. Tom texted later. Motions filed. All evidence queued for presentation. Hearing confirmed John 2 with witnesses summoned. You're in control now. I set the phone down, the apartment feeling less like a cage and more like a command center. The journey through her public shaming and financial draining building to this climax setup. My dignity on the line, but now with the tools to reclaim it fully in front of all who doubted me. The courtroom on January 2nd buzzed with that familiar tension as I walked in, my suit feeling a bit looser from the stress of the holidays. Tom beside me with his briefcase full of the evidence we'd locked down. The fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the wooden benches where Lisa's friends and a couple of her family members sat whispering support for her. My sister was there too, along with a few colleagues who'd started questioning her stories after the Christmas fallout, and Sarah waited in the back row, ready as our witness, while Derek slouched near the side, subpoenaed and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Lisa sat rigidly next to her lawyer, Attorney Hughes, her face drawn and anxious as she leaned over to mutter something, probably sensing the air had shifted but not knowing how badly. The judge, the same stern one from before, settled in and banged the gavel, his voice cutting through the murmurs. This is the expedited hearing on Ms. Reynolds' child support claim against Mr. Thompson, he said, glancing at the packed gallery. We'll proceed with evidence. Ms. Reynolds, begin. Attorney Hughes stood up smoothly, handing over their packet, the forged AOP with my supposed signature, those clipped and edited old texts from before I blocked her, the ultrasounds with tweaked dates during our marriage, and her stack of medical bills. Your Honor, paternity is established by the documents, Hughes said, projecting the texts for the room to see. Mr. Thompson knew about the pregnancy and evaded responsibility. We're requesting the increased interim support of $3 monthly, full back payments of $15,000, and sanctions for his delays in this matter. Lisa nodded vigorously, her eyes darting to her family for reassurance, but Derek shifted uncomfortably again, rubbing his hands on his pants as the judge scanned the submissions. Noted, the judge said evenly. Mr. Thompson? Tom rose, his posture confident as he approached the bench. Your Honor, we challenge paternity and move for a court-ordered DNA test to resolve this definitively, he said, starting with the vasectomy records from May 15, 2020, the procedure details, consent form with both our signatures, follow-up tests showing 0 sperm count. These medical records show Mr. Thompson had a vasectomy 5 years ago, mutually agreed upon. We have Dr. Harlan's affidavit and witness statement confirming the procedure's effectiveness, consistent with sterility, making paternity extremely unlikely without a documented reversal, which never happened. Hughes jumped up with an objection. Your Honor, this is unverified medical history, irrelevant without testing, he argued sharply, but the judge held up a hand. Objection noted, but I'll admit it provisionally for the purpose of considering the DNA motion. Continue. Tom nodded and projected the timeline comparisons. Additionally, the ultrasounds, Ms. Reynolds submitted of altered metadata, he said, calling Sarah to the stand first. She walked up, swore in, and sat composed as Tom questioned her. I was in a group chat with Lisa where she shared the original ultrasound file on April 10th. Excited about the pregnancy, Sarah explained clearly, her voice steady for the gallery to hear. I saved that version without any edits. The metadata shows dates after Mr. Thompson's separation, when there was no contact. Later, she forwarded screenshots of her chats with Derek, venting that he was questioning things and admitting the twins were from their affair. Post-separation, she even asked the group for advice on handling it. Lisa's face drained of color, her hand covering her mouth as Hughes objected again. Hearsay, Your Honor, this witness lacks foundation, he said, but Sarah cut in calmly under Tom's guidance. The file came directly from Lisa in the chat. I preserved it as is, no changes. The judge frowned, making notes. Overruled for now, I'll consider its weight. Next witness. Tom called Derek, who trudged to the stand, swearing in with a shaky voice as the gallery leaned forward. Mr. Hayes, did you have a relationship with Ms. Reynolds during the relevant period? Tom asked pointedly. Derek swallowed hard, glancing at Lisa, who shook her head subtly. Yes, we had an affair starting before the separation, but it continued after, he admitted, his words hanging heavy. She told me the twins might be mine, but said she'd handle it with her ex for support. I got a message recently making me question it all. I consent to a DNA test if needed. Lisa gasped audibly, her family murmuring in shock as one of her friends stood and left the room quietly. Hughes objected frantically. This is speculative, no basis without results. But Tom wrapped up, handing over the voluntary group chat screenshots. Derek's public posts about dodging baby drama and the full timeline mismatches. Your Honor, this evidence suggests fraud. The forged AOP, edited texts from old messages, altered ultrasounds. Combined with the vasectomy and witnesses, it warrants immediate DNA testing and suspension of obligations. Lisa leaned forward, her voice cracking. Your Honor, please. I was alone, struggling. The babies need support. Mark, why drag this out? I stayed silent as the judge asked if I had a statement, then spoke evenly. Your Honor, I supported her for years while she betrayed me. Her lies cost me everything. Finances, reputation, family trust. I just want the truth confirmed. The judge tapped his pen, reviewing the stack for a long moment as the room held its breath. Based on the provisional evidence, there's sufficient doubt to order a mandatory DNA test for Mr. Thompson, Ms. Reynolds, and the children to be conducted within 48 hours at a court-approved lab, he ruled firmly. Interim support obligations are suspended, and the asset freeze is lifted immediately. Funds already paid will be held in escrow pending results. I'll also warn Ms. Reynolds, any spoliation of evidence like deleted emails could lead to sanctions or perjury. Referral. Court adjourned until results. Lisa slumped in her seat, tears streaming as Hughes patted her shoulder. Her family avoiding her eyes while my sister gave me a thumbs up from the back. Derek nodded at me awkwardly before slipping out, and Sarah smiled faintly as she left. Her testimony hitting home. Tom clapped my shoulder in the hallway. Big win already. The freeze lifted means you can breathe. Results will seal it. 2 days later, on January 4th, the epilogue hit when Tom called me at home. My apartment feeling lighter with the bank alert confirming the unfreeze. DNA results are in. You're not the father, Derek is, he said, his voice triumphant. Claim dismissed fully. The judge vacated all orders, no further payments. And he's considering sanctions against Lisa for fraud, possible perjury investigation. Escrow funds returned to you. I sat on the couch, the relief washing over me like a wave, my savings back. Job pressure easing as Karen texted congratulations after the news spread. My sister called right after, apologetic. Mark, we were wrong. Lisa fooled everyone. Family's turning on her now. Aunt Linda even blocked her. Proud of you for fighting. Colleagues messaged support, the isolation fading as truth spread. My dignity reclaimed after her web of lies unraveled publicly. Lisa lost her leverage, facing potential charges and forfeited any sympathy, her greed exposed for what it was. I stood by the window, looking out at the city, delivering that final thought to myself. Trust and truth are the real foundations. Betray them, and everything crumbles. Like a locked safe guarding my records, some secrets should stay private. But deceit always gets unlocked in the end. Has anyone ever been misunderstood or slandered like Mark? What did you do to stay strong? Comment. With a sentence to share your experience. The truth may come slowly, but if you hold on to the evidence and stay calm, it will speak for itself. On screen, you'll see 2 new real-life stories I truly think you'll love. There are so many more waiting on my channel. Come join us there. Don't forget to subscribe so we never lose each other. See you in the next story, my dear friend. With all my love and respect.